I've never seen an anime quite like Chainsaw Man. Not just in its aesthetic, not just in its action, not even just in whatever the hell goes on inside Tatsuki Fujimoto's head, but in the inconceivable way this series has taken over the anime community for the past year and a half. I've been around here long enough to see the rise of shows like Demon Slayer, MHA, and Attack on Titan, as well as hyped up manga finally get long-awaited adaptations, but there's nothing that compares to the Chainsaw onslaught. Believe me, I live with a Chainsaw Man fan. There's pre-release hype, and then there's Shonen Jump property pre-release hype, then there's a gap, and then there's the level of hype that Chainsaw Man drummed up prior to release. Most manga get on the bestsellers list after their anime adaptation, not before. But it's hard to hear about how something is the greatest ever over and over again without becoming some level of cynical about it. Even if you're genuinely excited to watch, like I was, it's hard to avoid at least thinking about how this can't possibly live up to its billing. See, hype is a funny thing, because for all the excitement and attention it's able to drum up for a series, it also inherently creates toxicity as a byproduct. That can be due to a toxic positivity mindset of a rabid fan base causing any criticism to be interpreted as an attack, or the more common, people that hate popular things hating the show on principle. The more hype a series has, the more pressure there is to deliver, as there are more vultures waiting in the wings to pick it apart the second it stumbles. Instead of having the opportunity to be a hidden gem, shows are put under intense scrutiny from the start. So much so that even if they perform well, they might still be considered a disappointment. More than a few shows have struggled under the weight of their own hype, while we've very clearly seen what pre-release hype can do in the video game space. With that in mind, I'd like to return to my initial statement. I've never seen an anime quite like Chainsaw Man, because I've never seen a show able to outperform even its own insane hype. And it's obvious, right? A series doesn't get that many genuine fans unless it's doing something right. But to perfectly translate that onto the screen and capture new fans while pleasing all the existing fans is an astonishing feat. The initial reception to the show was always going to be a bit odd because, as we just discussed, the hype created people who wanted to say that they didn't like Chainsaw Man. And when you enter any story with an idea, you're going to find something to complain about. For the record, it appears a slow and or confusing story plus Denji being unlikable is what the party line of that group of people seems to be. To add on, there are always going to be manga purists that will riot if a single pixel of the anime isn't identical to a manga panel, as well as people who don't understand the modern usage of CGI in anime. So episode 1 was about par for the course of what I expected. Lots of praise, lots of happiness, and a vocal minority of annoying. But now, we're a little deeper into the anime, and the takes are starting to smooth out. I'm seeing a lot of Chainsaw Man is my favorite anime of the season, and very little anything else. The series, and by extension the adaptation, have spoken for themselves, providing a gripping storyline, memorable characters, and a level of uniqueness unrivaled within Shonen Jump's walls. When combined with the incredibly detailed animation and just overwhelming love and care being put into the anime by its staff, there are very few places to poke holes even for the most dedicated of haters. It has fully fleshed out characters I can't wait to see more of, insane fight choreography I can't get enough of, and just a level of charm that's impossible to artificially create. Either you have it or you don't, and Fujimoto has it in spades. The show's story was gripping from the opening episode and has only upped the stakes so far as I feel us beginning to enter that Chainsaw Man pacing I've heard so much about. I know everyone has different preferences, but I really do not see how you can watch the first half of this season and have your takeaway be, I don't know, it just kind of feels aimless and confusing. It not being for you is fine, but I don't think that's a blemish on the writing itself. I'm strapped in on this ride though, and I'm not getting off anytime soon. Chainsaw Man has been a bit of a weird experience for me though, simply in the fact that it feels like finally filling in the blanks in your memory. I have seen thousands of fan arts and screenshots of these characters out of context, so it's a bit jarring when some of the context is in a different zip code from how it's portrayed. You could even say it's like showing up to a party expecting cake and getting hit in the face with a frying pan. girlboss, gaslight, gatekeep. Chainsaw Man is an interesting experiment in the way communities can alter the reality of a story, or at least create a pseudo-headcanon that becomes generally adopted. Large parts of the story feel so different than I expected them to, that there's honestly a whole other level of intrigue in me trying to figure out where all these random puzzle pieces fit together, even if some of those puzzle pieces are actual spoilers. The funniest part about all this hype has been this weird social media race to tweet out screen caps from new episodes and properly call out animators and directors of certain cuts for Twitter clout. I think it's a net good thing. The more general knowledge the community has about how productions actually function, and the creative people that actually create our favorite anime, the better. But I can confidently say I had never had an episode of an airing show spoiled for me before by someone citing their sources. In that vein, I honestly think the level of success and notoriety Chainsaw Man has is what led to the overwhelming quality of the anime. You can't take a once-in-a-generation story like this, a story that is printing money right now, and fumble it. I mean, you can, but it'd be leaving cases full of money on the table, and I doubt any studio executives want to do that. We'll have to wait and see what trade-off the staff had to make to accomplish such a crisp adaptation, but I'm somewhat naively hoping that the amount of lead time they had from announcement to release has allowed for a more normal production schedule, as well as these incredible artistic heights. They want to produce the best adaptation of this story as they possibly can, and that's why they're taking their time with it. And I'm very happy about that. One can only hope every new anime was given this level of polish. However, since the first season appears to not be a full adaptation of Part 1 as I had initially hoped, I'm going to break my sacred code and pick up the manga after the season ends. I mean, the entirety of Part 1 is literally sitting in my apartment right now anyway. I'm a patient person, I could easily wait, but given the oddball nature of Chainsaw Man's story and the fact that every single manga reader already acts like anime-onlys don't exist, I'm going to cut my losses and not get anything else spoiled, and what I'm expecting is a pretty impactful story. For now, though, I'm going to continue to ride the weekly high of Chainsaw Man Tuesdays. The high of not knowing what ending animation is going to blow up the internet that day. The high of not knowing when or if something in the story is going to go horribly wrong. The high of watching an all-time great as it's airing. I'd like to say that Chainsaw Man has finally arrived, but I think it's pretty clear that it was already here. The hype was justified, and the hype has been rewarded. Rewarded with one of the best anime adaptations I have ever seen. We'll have to check back in once the first season is finished, but I think it's safe to say that Chainsaw Man didn't just handle its own hype, it absolutely crushed it.